You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a brown belt who trains at the Submission Academy located in London, Ontario, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Vanderkuyl.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate I really like the premise of this show, like having just regular everyday jiu-jitsu practitioners who get to kind of, share their story and hopefully inspire others.
Yeah, man, this is exactly what I did this for. But yeah, first and foremost, I would like to say thank you and appreciate you for coming on and taking the time out of your busy day to do an episode for me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and know this is going to be a good one too. So if you want, you can introduce yourself again formally, and then let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Sure. So I'm Jordan Vanderkuyl. I'm from London, Ontario, Canada. I train at the Submission Academy. We're a Renzo Gracie affiliate. Where did jiu-jitsu start for me? I guess, well, I lived back in 2009, I moved to South Korea, and I lived there for, I want to say, probably close to 6 years. And it was actually judo was the first martial art that I started in. So I trained judo for about 5 years out there. And then when I finally moved back to Canada, I was actually hunting for a judo gym in my city. It's not a very big city, probably like 300,000 or so. I couldn't find a judo gym, so a buddy of mine recommended jiu-jitsu, and yeah, it was an interesting journey. I might have mentioned to you previously, like a big part of my jiu-jitsu journey was coping with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I also, I was just listening to one of your to your podcast. I can't remember the dude's name, but he worked in security or whatever. But I remember that you mentioned that you had like social anxiety disorder,
mm-hmm.
and so do I. Like pretty bad social anxiety disorder. Unfortunately, my coping mechanism back then was not good. Like drinking to me was like the magic bullet. So I used alcohol as a way to escape the anxiety. And in my heart of hearts, I knew that this was not obviously this was not a productive way to deal with, whatever shit you're going through. But so it was. So I came home from Korea kind of as a result of the alcohol. And I got myself clean, but like I know my personality, and I'm either 0 or 100. Like I have an addictive personality, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I do, it's 0 or 100. Either I can't touch it or I gotta go all in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even nowadays, like I eat if I get Skittles from the store, like I'm eating those things till my tongue bleeds, like I can't stop myself. So, so for me, jiu-jitsu was like I had to kind of manifest my addictive personality into something productive, and jiu-jitsu was what I found, and I threw myself in, wholeheartedly, because it was really like in my mind, it was kind of it really was a life or death thing, man. It was like I need something, because if I don't find anything, I'm gonna find my way back into what I was in previously, and I don't think I have it. Like at that point in my life, I didn't feel like I had another chance to extricate myself from that situation. So
Mm-hmm.
that is sort of the beginning, man.
Oh wow. But yeah, you were referring to my brother Adam. Yeah, so
I'm bad with names. I apologize.
Oh
Adam.
no, it's fine. I am too. I'm terrible, beyond terrible with names. But so you obviously been training for a while because you are a brown belt. So has the Submission Academy, has that been your only school, or have you kind of bounced around a little bit?
It's I mean, I would say it's pretty much my only school. Like the first school I started in was, I guess you can call it like a makeshift school, because we were in a kind of an abandoned squash court of a gym, and we would set up the mats like every class. It was called Hibero Jiu-Jitsu. I don't think it exists anymore. But I mean, the coach from there is legit. Like, he's a legit black belt. But he was just kind of like struggling to find where he could teach. I believe he teaches at another location at the moment. But anyways, I started there for 1 year. It was a very far drive, though. But you know what? It was probably the most important year of jiu-jitsu for me, because it was me and one other guy. We were the only white belts. So for about a year, we just got crushed by guys. And I mean, nothing teaches you defense like getting crushed by higher belts in the beginning, right?
Oh yeah.
And it allows you to kind of understand those positions of survivability, right? Like, if you can just get that tiny bit of pressure off the artery or off the throat or whatever, then maybe you can, endure and get out. And there was a lot of that in that first year. And I think when I moved academies, it was interesting, because all of a sudden there were all these other white belts who had been training as long as I had. And I don't know, I mean, many do have resolve, but a lot of them didn't either, because they hadn't been, maybe they just choose to roll with, their buddy who's also a white belt, and they're not willing to put themselves in those uncomfortable situations where you're just getting tapped every, 45 seconds to a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was there, and then for about a year, and then I've been at the Submission Academy for about 6 years after that. So about 7 years in total.
Oh, okay. So, but consistent at this one school for sure.
Pardon me. Sorry, the microphone kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll say, but like you said, 2 different schools, but you've been like the most consistent at this school here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 6 years there, and we have so much training available. I nowadays actually I teach a 7 a.m. class on Tuesday and Thursday. So that's kind of cool too, to get your hand on the teaching aspect as well. Do you teach any jiu-jitsu as well aside from practicing?
I do. I teach.
Oh, you do? You run a class as well?
Yep, I do. I do kids class, and I also teach. I do teach our adults class sometimes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And how do you find that impacts your own jiu-jitsu ability?
Honestly, it helped it tremendously, because when it comes to teaching kids, you can't go into too many details with technique, so you kind of have to just do one and try to make it stretch 45 minutes. So being able to break down a technique into like the most simplistic form is, to help them understand, but it also taught me to understand it a whole lot better as well.
Yeah, because even the process of articulating the technique, it kind of makes you have to refine it yourself, right? And be like, oh, you got to move your arm here. And I always find that, like, I mean, for me anyways, the techniques that I remember best are the ones that have been like analogized best, right? Someone comes up with a cool analogy to describe, like, I'll never forget this one guy, like I think I was a blue belt or something like that. And I was having problems finishing a head and arm. And the guy was saying, you got to kind of slither like a snake with your head. You get your head real close to the mat, and then you kind of pretend you're a snake slithering in the grass, and when you put your head towards his head. And for some reason that analogy clicked, and every time I do head and arms, it's always that like snake all the time. That's weird like that.
Oh yeah. But I absolutely love teaching. But like I said, it definitely did help a big part of my own game. It taught me a lot of patience. Because like I said, teaching kids is like, all right, how many times do I have to say, put your foot here, and then you do your other foot. It's like, no, not that foot, the other foot. So just being able to, teach
like,
them.
Timmy, take your finger out of your nose, bro.
I know, right? Like, y'all supposed to be in learning positions, but y'all like, running around doing flips. So it's like, okay.
yeah, exactly. You're like troubleshooting the situation as well. No doubt. Classroom management skills.
Gotta have it, man. Gotta have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely helped a lot. But what about you?
Yeah, I love teaching. Like my day job is a teacher as well, so it kind of like marries the two things that I enjoy most. I get to teach, like I teach adult ESL, so refugees that come from various countries. So my experience is having to put complicated principles into very simplistic language. And I feel like a lot of times you're kind of doing the same thing when you're teaching jujitsu. Like at a brown belt level, you have a more complex understanding of certain techniques, but you can't really explain it the way that you know it to a white belt, because a lot of those details are going to go in one ear and out the other, right? So you're sort of triaging what is necessary for them to like get the fundamentals of the skill, and kind of choosing what details to neglect, I guess. If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Because being a teacher and being an instructor, you kind of have to learn more sides of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because
right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was sorry. I was just gonna say that you do have to learn more sides of jiu-jitsu, because, and as I'm sure you're aware, being a brown belt yourself, is when you kind of get to that purple brown belt level, now you've kind of developed a game, right? You have your preferred techniques, and when you're in hard rolls, you are going for your game. And as a result, I think you've narrowed yourself in, to a certain extent, while not really thinking about those other things that you don't really do too much. So having the opportunity to teach those things, it lets you relearn it a little bit. And like, who knows, man, maybe when you learn that skill back in the day, you weren't ready for it, but now you are ready for it. And you can figure out a way to sort of implement that into your game. I don't know, maybe that's what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that was it. That was basically it. Cause like what I was saying about learning both sides, you have to be able to learn how to apply it to yourself. Be able to apply it to other people in different situations. So just like with jiu-jitsu, like if I can show a triangle from guard, right? But if I have you, Jordan, who's might be a skinnier guy or may have wider shoulders than your training partner, I have to be able to teach how to address that. In order to be able to teach how to address that, I have to learn it myself.
Right.
So yeah, so I always go in with that mindset of like, okay, I'll show a triangle on one person, and if someone asks again, I'll show it on a different size of a person, so that way if I have to adjust anything, it's more looks like, okay, it's not just a cookie cutter, this and that. Like you have to make those adjustments depending on who your quote unquote opponent is.
And actually, you made me think of something that I wanted to talk to you about, is how body type relates to jiu-jitsu. I don't know, like what is your like body type, and actually, what is your body type according to what is the body type of your coaches? Is it similar, different?
It's different. My instructor's like 6'2", I think. He's about 3 something, so he's a big guy.
Ooh, yeah,
he's
boy.
He's a big guy, yeah. And I'm 5'9", 5'10", 217. So
okay.
But we have that smashed out jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So yeah, it is, honestly, I find it's very easy to be able to break it down, because yeah, he is a big guy, but he know how to use his weight. It's not just like he just like laying on top of somebody and like, yeah, I got the dominant position. No, he's bladed off. He has his weight at a certain position where it's like, okay, he don't have all his weight on me, but if he did, I would definitely tell. It's enough to keep me under him. Right. Like it's enough to keep me under him, but what's
curious to me is is now how does he teach, say, the skinny, lanky guy who relies on flexibility?
Honestly, the same way that I teach it. It's if you're dealing with someone, like, for example, if I'm going to get someone who's a lot smaller than I am, who necessarily can't put their weight down, be able to blade your body off, focus on the inside of the body, like, just break the body in half, focus on that one side where you can make sure that your weight is down on your opponent, they're feeling your weight and pressure no matter how big you are, and go from there. So because it's not like, because we know jiu-jitsu is not cookie cutter. It's not just like, we're going to give you this one technique and it's going to work on everybody.
Yeah,
I wish, but no.
It's like when you're the 150-pound skinny tall dude trying to triangle the next football player.
Right.
It's generally not going to go super well for you. So
yeah. So we're taught a little bit more of the body mechanics, like you no matter how big the guy is, if you deviate the spine, that kind of takes out the fight out of anybody.
Right.
It only takes a few pounds of pressure to break their neck. Once your face is deviating, you have your weight down on them. That really not how, doesn't care how big you are. It's going to be very, very tough for them to get from under you. So it's a lot more to it than just their body, our body weight, and if this guy is bigger than that person. It's a lot, like I said, we study a lot of the body mechanics and how the body works and how to where to apply the right pressure and where to apply the pressure. So we get some very, very deep, knowledgeable classes from time to time too. So
I think that's absolutely the best way to teach it. Those are the best classes to have, because like if you go to, there are some gyms where it's just like, okay, this is a triangle, this is an arm bar, this is an omoplata, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But there are those in between positions that are so important before you even get to the submission, and if you don't put enough emphasis on those in between positions, such as exactly like you said, the body mechanics, then you're never going to get there in the first place. So who fucking cares, right?
Right. And that's like a key thing that I explain to every single body that walks into our gym or talks to me about jiu-jitsu. There's a few things you have to learn. You have to learn how your body works, because you're going to be moving on the ground. No one just wakes up and just start crawling and rolling around on the ground unless you're a kid, Two, we have a thing called position before submission. Like, I can show you how to do an armbar, Americana, or any type of chokes and everything else. But if you don't understand the mechanics and understand the position of where your body's supposed to be, all that doesn't matter. So
that almost, I almost, sorry to interrupt you, but that's like, you see a lot of people nowadays who, like, YouTube can be a great resource, but it can also be total shit, because there are so many of these like extravagant, insane techniques that you see on YouTube, and so many people want to jump. It's like I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's like, jumping to the letter S when you're still on B or C, right? It's like going for these insane techniques that you've seen on YouTube, but if you don't, and I like the unorthodox techniques. Like, I like doing weird shit like K-guard and pterygoplatas and stuff like that, but it's only because I have a strong base in the fundamentals. Because if my technique fails, if something weird fails, and it will quite often, especially people who know my game, I need to be able to recover, and I need to get a dominant position, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't just go flying in for some insane shit when you don't even, know how to hold side control.
Right, exactly. Because, I'll get someone come up to me like, hey, yeah, man, can you show me how to do this? I want to be able to just do this. I'm like, well, okay. I can show you that, but it's a lot more to it than just doing this. Like, if you want to learn how to, do Americana, you have to learn how to properly figure for your arms. You have to learn how to, adjust your body. You have to learn how to, depending on the size of the person's shoulders, how long their arms are, how big their arms are. I just can't just say, yeah, here's Americana, now, go take over the world. Like, you have to be able to understand a lot more than just the technique.
Death through Americanas all day.
I know, right? Like, jiu-jitsu is not microwavable. Like, you have to let it go. Like, you have to let it cook.
Yeah, certainly do. And it's funny how you have those like epiphany moments in jiu-jitsu. It can often be like the smallest piece of information that you're given to a technique that you've been struggling with, and it's like, how did I not know this shit before?
Mm-hmm.
How is it such a small thing,
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. There are still moments where I'll be in class and I'll be thinking about a roll I just did and be like, damn it. They're like, what's wrong? Nothing. This roll I just had, I could have finished it a little sooner if I would have just realized XYZ and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, they'd be like, all right, like, don't worry about it. It's like no, don't worry about it. Just continue with class.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you consider like your game in jiu-jitsu? I'm gonna give it away for everybody to hear. So when you compete against Lamar, everybody knows.
See, now the funny thing about that is it's always changing. But
yeah, as it should.
Yeah, because it's funny that me and my, I guess you want to say my training partner, you want to call him my coach now, but we've been getting ready for this tournament in January. And in our school, like I said, we're smash styles jiu-jitsu. And a lot of our main dominant position is side control, because that's the position to have the most successful rates in submissions. But in tournament, there is no points in side control. So trying to get that, I'm gonna say not get out of that mindset of going to side control, but using side control as a transition versus a dominant position.
Okay.
So we've been working a lot of that, working a different variety of takedowns and everything else, because I'm so used to training with the people in my gym, so I kind of have an idea on what to do with their body types, but I need something that's going to be a little bit more Swiss Army knife like, if you want to say, just be able to just kind of like, work on everybody a little bit. But if I have to make those small variations, I can. So I don't even know what my game is right now. It's just like the couple things that I'm working on.
That's how I feel. I always feel like that. And I always feel like as I approach a tournament or something, like I become like almost like, I don't know, like I know what my game is, and yet all of a sudden I'm like, what's my game? What am I doing? Like, what's like as the weeks, and then eventually it solidifies into like what I typically do. But I'm a terrible second guesser of myself.
Oh,
like,
yeah, of course. I will scrutinize my game to no end. Like, if I'm excuse me, if I'm watching a video of my roll, I'm like, ugh, that's terrible. Do better. That was so sloppy. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, better.
Yeah.
So
I
get it.
I like from a like standing position, like I have this fear of guard pullers, because like with a judo background, I get like intensely like suddenly like I don't know if it's like a subconscious thing, but like suddenly I'm in a judo match and I get super fixated on the throw, and then like I'm setting it up and I'm like, oh yeah, baby, here it comes, and then guard pull, and I'm like, God damn it!
Like, no, stand up so I can throw you.
Yeah, like let's try this again. Every match I've ever lost in a tournament has been from a really good guard pull where I got sucked right in. I've never lost a match in any other way except for a guard pull. So now I got that fear. I'm like, oh man, I gotta like, I can't just get fixated on the throw. I gotta, and so these days I'm working on my wrestling more, so I can go for, I can, shoot doubles and stuff like that instead of just, single-mindedly going for throws all the time.
Yeah. So I guess you want to say today was, well, I guess you want to say the day of this recording, was like my first fight camp. So it was a lot of hard work, a lot of grinding, a lot of repetition. Obviously we do that in class, but this one was like all focused on me. It was like my training partners were going, as hard as I wanted them to go and hard as they needed to go, and it was just like nonstop. And I love to enjoy it, and my body is paying for it right now. But
oh yeah, guaranteed.
But yeah, just the idea of how much I guess you want to say, just going through my game with a fine tooth comb for this for this tournament, and it's making me more and more excited because I'm like, okay, I'm going to be able to apply what I've been learning, what I've been working on for like the last few months in this tournament. And regardless of the outcome, obviously, I'm going to shoot for gold, but whatever happens in the tournament happens. But that's just going to make me want to do a whole lot more, because I'm like, okay, what I've learned, what I've done in this tournament, what worked, what didn't work, what should I've done, what should I have not done. I'm just going to take all that information, and that's going to be what I'm going to work on my next training camp until the next tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be constantly evolving and just pushing myself to do, a metric ton better than my last tournament. Even if I was to win gold, there's always going to be room for improvement and, to fix the small games and the small holes in my games and mistakes and whatnot.
I think that's a really great mentality to have. Like, I think often when I'm preparing for a tournament, I see the tournament too much as the sort of end goal rather than as, step number one out of, say 5, 6, 7 steps, right? That, okay, this tournament is going to be the opportunity to, I mean, as you said, like, you're shooting for gold, but, the very close second is to find the areas where I'm weak at so that I can improve it for step 3 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think, that's a really good insight. I think that's something that I need to implement into my own game, because I definitely see tournaments as too much of an end game. And I think as a result, I'm often too hard on myself if I don't perform to my expectations.
Right. I mean, by all means, use it, because you have to think of it like this. After this tournament, are you going to stop doing jiu-jitsu?
Hell no.
Exactly. So why make it feel that way? Like, no, this is just another ordinary day in the office. Like, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to go to this tournament on Saturday. Whatever happens, happens. And then on Tuesday, I'll be right back at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop, so I can never think of as a tournament as an end all be all. Like, okay, I'm going to work hard and I'm just going to leave it all on the line on, January 7th. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Like, nah, January 8th, we back on the mats.
Hell yeah.
Prepare for February, or prepare for March, or whatever the next tournament is. So.
Yeah. Do you have like a pivotal moment in your jiu-jitsu career where you really almost decided, almost like a woman, like, I think I love this, I think I love her. I love this girl named jiu-jitsu.
Excuse me. Oh yeah. Let's see. When was this? This was roughly, I think the first time was this is my very first time, but it was, I was still a white belt. This is when my instructor got his black belt. So his master Joe Moera came out, did his black belt test, and the wealth of knowledge that this man has, and what he showed and what I've seen at the testing, because literally I was only a couple months in doing jiu-jitsu, so I didn't know about the ranking system that much or how they did it. I didn't know about their testing system. I didn't know nothing. I was just doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah. But I've been there, I was there 3-4 days out of the week. So, got cool with the instructor really, really fast. So I was, uki for his test. So I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at all this like information that he has to show. He has to show so many techniques from top, bottom, side, the self-defense portion where, it's a 2-on-1 fight. And then there's like situational where, someone's in your guard or someone's.
You come from a Gracie lineage?
Yeah.
Okay, that's yeah.
Yeah, so you so so just seeing,
because I think because I know that like the Gracie lineage has like a lot of emphasis on the self-defense portion as well, right?
And that's drilled into us like every day. But seeing that, and then a couple months, I think it was like a couple months after that, we had our grandmaster Francisco Mansour step on our, bless us on our mats. And this guy is in his 60s or 70s, and he's moving like a 20-year-old doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
And
that
I'm
shit's
like,
insane.
that's what I want. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, if I can do this at that age, I'm in love.
That's the thing about jujitsu is like it actually is like a weird kind of fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Like you really are prolonging your age in some weird way. I mean, even though you feel it a little bit more in the mornings and you got to do your stretches and your prehab and your rehab and stuff like that, I swear to God, man, like every now and then I'll run into somebody from high school or whatever, and like I'm saying, hi, how are you? But my mind is going, man, you look fucking old.
Yeah.
That sounds bad.
No, but it's true though. It is so true. Like I've run into I'm only 35. So
yeah.
I've run into people that's younger than me, my age, and they look twice as old as I do.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, man, what the hell are y'all doing? But those are the drinkers, the partiers and stuff like that. Or they work 17, 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
Looking run down. I'm like, yeah, my body hurts is because I was in the gym and I feel fantastic. So yeah, I can't imagine. For one, I can't imagine at this point in my life doing anything else.
Me neither.
And I'm like, you know what, man? If I could, look at, Master Joe Moera, look at, Grandmaster Francisco Mansour, even looking at my instructor, and these are the three main guys that's been, I guess you want to say, few of the guys that's been pivotal in my, in my training, and just seeing these guys do jiu-jitsu for as long as they've done it, and they have no signs of stopping. I'm like, if they can do that, then I know that I'm going to be in this for a while.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be in this for a while. And now being a brown belt, it's like I'm in it for life.
It's we're really blessed in the fact that there is a lot of longevity in this sport, right? Because as we were talking earlier about being able to, or jiu-jitsu not being cookie cutter, there are always adaptations you can make for your age, for your body type, your whatever injuries that you might have accrued along the way. Things like that. Like, man, one of the most inspiring dudes at my gym, his name's Martin Ford. He used to be oh man, what do they call British cops? Oh, what's the name for them? There's like a idiomatic term for, anyways, whatever. Anyways, he was a cop in the UK. He's like, he started jiu-jitsu at 59, I believe. And he won worlds at blue belt, like 3 years later, like what a machine.
Right.
Like how dope is that?
Exactly. And like the other day, I don't know, I guess it was just a bad week for me. And I was just like, man, this jiu-jitsu stuff, man, is really tearing my body apart. I'm like, why am I going through this and all this other stuff? And I'm just scrolling through Instagram, and I see a video of this guy, of this man. He had to be in his like late 70s or 80s, and he got his black belt. And he's walking slowly over to it, and they tied on his belt. And I just kind of like looked at that. I'm like, man, to be up there in age, from him getting his black belt to your training partner who's getting, who got his blue belt, did worlds, and they're over that threshold. And it's like, man, jiu-jitsu is timeless.
Yeah.
Like jiu-jitsu is timeless, and jiu-jitsu is ageless. From the smallest 3-year-old that's doing, crazy techniques and takedowns and judo throws, to like these 80, 60, and 70-year-olds that's stepping on the mats for the first time or getting their black, blue, or brown belts. It's awesome. It's very awesome to see. Very, very awesome to see. And
I think another big a moment for me was like my wife also trains. So she's a blue belt, but like it took about a year and a half of convincing for me to like get her into jujitsu. And then she got into jujitsu, and it turns out she's like a savant. so like so we would finish practice for the day or whatever, and like, you know, all the women go into their change room and we go into our change room, and my coach comes in, and it's just like every time he's like, man, Mihyun is so good. She heel hooked me like 2 times today, and and Mihyun is so good. She's doing this and that and that. And I'm like, yo, coach, what about me? How am I doing? But you know, like to have a partner who's equally engaged in the sport as I am is amazing, because you know, we can just sit around and watch ADCC videos, and like, you know, half of our friends outside of jiu-jitsu would be like, what in the hell are you guys doing? And what are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
It's like a secret cult, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And my wife just got back into training.
Good for her.
Yeah, so it was like she started about a couple years ago, but you know, the birth of our second child, and and also COVID. So she, you know, she was off the mats for a minute, and so she's finally back. And she's like, for one, she's always been intimidated because I've been training longer, but now me being a brown belt, she's like, you gonna do this or you gonna do that? I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt you. Like you are in the safest hands right now. But like, yeah, but you know, just to see her,
I feel like I'm not in the safest hands when I'm rolling with my wife. I feel like she's like going like 8 times harder than she normally would.
and that's where I'm trying to get my wife to, because she's like, she's afraid to roll because she just feel like she doesn't know anything. But I'm like, this is how you get better. You have to just go for it. If it doesn't work out, you just keep trying. And I feel like once she's able to get past that, she's gonna do amazing in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, if it's any inspiration to your wife, like my wife is the only higher ranked female at the gym. So she has had to adapt her style to be constantly rolling with guys.
mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, there are definitely days where she, you know, like, cause those, you know, if she has to roll with like some white belt guy, you know, his ego won't let him not use strength sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So as a result, like she is blue belt, probably on the, you know, on the threshold of purple, but she probably has top 3 strongest leg lock games in the gym, I would say. Like she will knee bar you or heel hook you in a second, like boom. Like, and her guard in no-gi, it's like impossible to pass. It's actually crazy. And it's because she has to be against guys all the time. So, you know, as advice to your wife, you know, like just endure until you don't have to endure anymore because you're too good.
Yeah. And I always kind of come back to this guy. His name is Andrew. He doesn't train anymore, unfortunately. He stopped at purple belt, but at our school, he was the smallest guy there for a long time. So, you know, just going against bigger dudes that smashed out jiu-jitsu, he knew the fact that like he can't match strength with anybody. So his main focus was like his guard retention.
Yeah.
And, you know, just making sure that he's constantly moving and constantly, you know, adjusting and everything else. And when I tell you, his guard retention was so amazing. It was like, dude, like what the hell? No matter what we can do, we couldn't lock him down. We couldn't keep him under us. He was always moving, always adjusting, always snaking. And yeah, that was for that reason. Like he had to do that because if he didn't, he's gonna get squashed.
Yeah.
So,
and that's very reminiscent of my game. Like, I mean, I'm not small, but I'm lanky and I have a lot of hip flexibility. So my jujitsu is kind of a distance game. I kind of like if I'm on my back, I like to keep you a little bit farther and sort of pick at you from the outside to you know, to isolate the arm or to isolate the leg or whatever. So guard retention is because I don't want to be inside control. against someone like you who smashes me, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to get in the first place. So yes, I mean, escapes are important, but you don't really have to escape if you never get there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so I mean, that's just with any part of jiu-jitsu, no matter if you're man or female, like you have to be consistent for one. Two, you just have to just give it your all. Every time you step on the mats, you just have to give it your all. Learn from it, grow from it, and eventually, everything will start to transition and flow so much better than it did the day before.
And I think that giving it your all can mean several different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it can be like, okay, we're gonna go hard, like do hard rolls, grind it out, be exhausted by the end of the roll, and that has a purpose. But drilling techniques and doing flow rolls a lot, watching video, that's also that's giving it your all in a different way, right? Because you got to refine certain things. And I mean, I'll be, what's the date today? Today is the 11th. So in 12 days, I turn 40. And I can't do 100% every practice. My body doesn't accept it. And if I'm spending more time injured than I am training, then I'm not gaining, right?
Right.
So for me, it's a balance of flow rolls versus going hard, and also ensuring that I'm lifting enough as well, like at the gym, etc. Because I always find that if I don't have a good balance between the gym and jiu-jitsu, injuries also happen.
Yeah.
That's just my I don't know, man. That's my body, and I'm slowly and stubbornly learning to listen to my body.
Mm-hmm. I am too, but jiu-jitsu always speaks louder. Jiu-jitsu is like, oh, excuse me, sorry.
No worries, man.
But it's like, oh, you tired? Like, yeah, I'm tired. But the mats don't get tired.
Yeah.
You're right. I'll go to class. That's a good boy.
my coach always says, he says, like, don't make not going an option. It's like going to work. Like you can't just like not go to work, right? So you make jiu-jitsu the same thing. You can't not go. That's
mm-hmm.
and if you have that sort of mentality where like there isn't an option, it's just what I do and I have to do it,
Yeah.
then it becomes sort of an easier thing to accept being busy and tired and all that stuff. Because you know what? When Sunday rolls around and you're lounging on the couch and you've had, a fucking hardcore week, that's something to celebrate. Because there was a time in my life to bring this full circle where there wasn't much to celebrate, man. I was drinking for the sake of drinking to escape. And now I accomplish so much all the time that it's like every now and then, man, I need to reframe and look back on those days and be like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing and putting myself through, as my mom would say, this self-punishment, this
mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu that I'm doing, because it's so fucking worth it,
Yeah, it's literally, it makes you feel so alive.
Yes.
Just because like today, like I said, it was the first day of my fight camp, and I took a nasty fall from a takedown. But it was controlled, but it's something my body's not used to, and I'm in pain right now. Even sitting here having this conversation, I'm in pain. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm about to get ready to go back to the gym after this interview. So,
shit, no kidding, eh?
Yeah. So that's how I am, man. Like I feel alive when I'm in pain from jiu-jitsu. Like,
what is your recovery process, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, I usually try to get into a sauna to try to like warm my body back up. To like just loosen everything. A lot of stretching, a lot of mobility. Exercises. I haven't been doing them as much lately because I've been just so busy. But I got to get back into doing that, getting back to being loose and limber, and yeah, and not just sit around and do nothing, because as soon as I do that, that's when everything starts to hurt.
That's when it goes to shit. Yeah.
Yep.
It was when COVID happened, like my job shifted to online, right? Like online teaching. So I just, it never dawned on me at the time to have. I've never worked a job where I sit down, right? Like when I'm teaching, I'm standing up in front of the class the entire time. So I wasn't conscientious about my posture sitting. So 1 year of sitting and teaching, like that, it really fucked me up, man. Like my lower back, like I suffered a pretty bad lower back injury, like training hard after working, because I was so accustomed to just like, okay, work's done, go to jiu-jitsu train, and it was fine. But it was only fine because I'm on my feet all day teaching. So when I went from that, that stagnant posture sitting right to jiu-jitsu, boom, that's when it happened. And I was like, oh, okay, dummy, now you know something. You learned a lesson.
Yeah. And what's funny about that, I've always worked retail, so I'm always used to standing up. But going from working retail to straight to training, my body wasn't used to that. So I think one day after class, I was just in so much pain, and I was like, okay, I think I need to go to the doctor, because I can barely move my lower back was just like, it was like extremely tight. Just I couldn't move. Made it to the hospital, and they were doing tests and x-rays and stuff, and the doctor says, so what do you do you work? I'm like, yeah, I work. And she's like, what do you do? And I said, I work in retail, so I'm standing all day. And she says, yeah, so you're having muscle spasms in your back, so you're not just standing. Are you doing a lot of lifting? I'm like, no, it's a pretty easy job, whatever. And she's like, do you do anything else? And I was like, oh yeah, I do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I do jiu-jitsu, So she's like, what's that? So try to explain it the best way I can. At the time, I was like, yeah. So it's a lot of.
It's always hard to explain it.
It's always hard to explain jiu-jitsu. But I told her, like, it's a lot of twisting and turning and this and that and blah blah blah. I showed her a video real quick, and so she was like, oh, okay. Well, she's like, so she says, well, you're gonna have to take a break from that, so your back can heal.
And you're like, no.
And no, wait, no. What I did was I sat there and I was like, oh, take a break? And she's like, yeah, you're gonna have to take a couple of days off. And I was like, well, I just started this job, so I don't think they're gonna let me take any days off. So my wife and the doctor looked at each other. They looked at me, and she was like, no, I'm talking about jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh, nah, I can't do that.
That's hilarious that you immediately assumed it was work and not jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I know. I was like, no, I'm not stopping jiu-jitsu. Like, I would gladly call off work, but man, no, I don't want to miss jiu-jitsu. I'm not saying that as I call off work a lot, only if necessary, but I would rather call off work than miss training.
All right, I'm gonna reveal something in hopes that nobody from my work ever hears this, because then I'll probably get in trouble. But I have been known to take a sick day to do jiu-jitsu instead of being sick. Like I want to go to day class today, so I'm sick. Cough, cough.
I know, right? Like, oh, I'm not gonna make it. And grab my bag and we're out the door. I mean, but it's it is I think a logical use for a sick day.
I call it a mental health day, because
it is.
If anything, like jiu-jitsu is my one time in the day where I am mindful only about jiu-jitsu, because let's be honest, man, we all have our stresses. We all have things that can keep us up at night or shed a few tears.
Yes.
Now for this 2-hour period, I don't think about anything except for trying to choke you and not be choked. And there's, I've tried the meditation thing, but like I'm so ADD as fuck. Like I can't sit there and think about nothing. So like I need something. Yeah. So jiu-jitsu is my mindful activity, and it really 100% contributes to my mental health.
Yep. And I'm that same way. Like, with my wife and daughter who trains as well. I get off work, go pick them up, and then I head to the gym. But oh man, this like a couple days ago, man, I was just going through so much stuff mentally. I just told my wife, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna make it home. I mean, you just gonna have to miss class today because I'm about to go train the whole entire day. And she's like, okay, you sure?
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. I'm 100% sure. So I'll see you when I get home tonight.
Yeah.
So,
And like my partner gets that too. Like, I get like, sorry, let me ask real quick. Where are you from? Like, are you in like a temperate area or like, I mean, cause I'm Canada cold, right? So it's about winter. So are you from somewhere that has like a ferocious winter or no?
I'm in Detroit, Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, so you know winter then.
Yeah, so we see all four seasons
we're
in
like 2
2
hours
weeks.
away from each other.
Yeah, so we see all 4 seasons in 2 weeks. So
yeah, exactly. We always say in London we have 2 seasons, winter and construction. So
exactly.
anyways, like winter, like the time changes and shit, like it really gets on top of me. Like I don't like the early sundown and perpetual darkness. And I don't know, man, there isn't shit to do in London in the wintertime, especially. So like I'll go through these kind of, I don't know, pity party sessions, for like a week at a time or so. And my wife will just be like, I'll hibernate in the basement and play some video games, and she'll come down and I'll hear those footsteps, boom, boom, boom. And she'll be like, you need to go to jujitsu. And I'll be like, I don't feel like it, I'm tired. And she'll be like, go to jujitsu. I'll go and I'll train my ass off. And then I'll come home and I'll be smiles and conversation. It's like an injection of pure vitamin D,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I was so tired this week, and hanging out with my brothers, and they was like, we doing open mat tomorrow. And I'm like, oh man, really? I was like, yep. I was like, they was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh man, really? So I was fighting it. I got up this morning. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was just so tired, and I was like, man, I can't go to class today. And I was like, nope, I got to get up. I got this tournament to prepare for. I can't start slacking now. But as soon as I got there, man, I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
As soon as that, we slap bumped, and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready to leave.
And I generally find that the days I don't want to go, I have my best training sessions.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. It just seems to happen. Maybe it's because you've kind of, overcome 2 obstacles at the same time, 2 birds with 1 stone, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's because you're so tired and you've worked so hard the rest of the time that you needed that one last class to sort of tip the scales in your progression. If we think of it as a video game, it's like, yo, that's the fucking level up right there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely that level up. So, but I think it's just the fact that like sometimes when you just that busy week, you're like, okay, I just gave all myself, like, everything I had into this job this week. Who am I to say no to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Because I have those moments where it's like, if I'm just too tired to go to training, I listen to myself and I'll say, you know what? I'm just going to take this day off and rest. But I hate myself that whole entire night.
Yeah. Well, if you know what, I think it's essential to have pre-planned rest days, because if you don't, and you tell yourself, like if you sort of have it in your mental schedule that you're going to jujitsu and then you bail, then you feel shitty. But if you have that pre-planned rest day, then there's nothing to feel guilty about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, man, I put my work in. This is the day that I've earned, and then there's no guilt. But otherwise, again, going back to what I said before, there is no option. You go. Mm-hmm. And similarly, your rest day, it should be no option. Like, you rest because you need to rest.
And I don't. Yeah. I tried that, but I don't listen to myself. Because I'm
not saying I'm perfect at it, man. I'm just saying.
You said that I'm not in no way, shape, or form. I'm saying this is foolproof, but this is what I try to do.
Yeah, I'm preaching, but I'm not following the sermon, man. I gotta listen to my own advice.
Because I tell you, man, when I got the announcement a few months ago when I was testing for my brown belt, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put all my time and focus on my brown belt. And then after my brown belt test, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. I told myself this. So many times. Like, you're going to take a couple weeks off. And then we found out that, I'll be testing at the beginning of October. I said, okay, boom, October, whatever it was, is the day that, my test. I'm not coming back until November, whatever. My test was that Tuesday. I was there that Thursday.
Oh, yeah, of course you were.
Because I was like, I'm just going to rest. And like, my body was like, yeah, you should rest. But then I was like, hey, Thursday class, right? I'm like, yeah, you're right. You going to class?
What do you guys?
Yep.
What do you guys do for your test? Because like we do like our belt tests, like we do like the whole skills test that you described previously, but we do an hour Shark Tank after as well. And so like the belt test is like, I mean, you get, new opponent every minute for an hour. You're not allowed water, anything like that. So like after your belt test, man, like you earned your belt, man. You earned your belt.
Yeah. So yeah, we do our technique portion, and then we do the self-defense portion, and then we do two, like for my brown belt example, we did 2 8-minute rounds of rolling. So
Okay.
it's an all day thing. It's a few hours out of the day to do to do our testing. So after that, everyone beats you up, obviously, but yeah, the test is enough itself, man. The test is enough to kill us.
And especially like I just remember looking at like the sheet of paper for my brown belt test, and I counted up like the total number of like skills to demonstrate. And I was like, yo, like that's like 96 different things. Like, do I even know 96 things?
Man, I'm telling you, like when I was talking to my instructor about my brown belt test, and it's like, okay, so many techniques from top, so many techniques from bottom, so on and so forth. So it was like, man, do I know that many techniques?
Yeah.
Like, do I know? So I think it was like, is it 20? No, I think it's like 20 from top, 20 from bottom. But yeah, but just looking at this, like, damn, do I know 20 techniques?
Yeah, I and especially like positions that I don't play very often. So there was like, what was it, like 4 sweeps from butterfly and 4 ways to pass butterfly, and I'm like, I do not know 4 ways to pass butterfly. Like I do 1. Like that's all I know.
So my brown belt test was 35 techniques from top, 35 techniques from bottom.
10 it's really general, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, 10 guard passes, 10 bottom escapes, 10 back escapes, 12 back attacks. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Exactly.
I definitely don't know that stage.
Yeah, so it's a very very thorough test, and yeah, when you look at it, it's like, man, do I really know 35 techniques? But then it's like, when you sit down and actually just think about it, quite a few, because you have your arm locks, and every arm lock, at the end of every arm lock is a wrist lock. So
well, and that's the thing, right? Is once you start like chaining them all together, then it becomes a little bit easier. Like just like a quick example is like, if you do like the armbar triangle omoplata, right? Like boom, there's 3 right there, and they all chain together like super easy. Or if you're in side control, you can do like Americana to straight armbar to Kimura to whatever, right? So once you start chaining them, it makes a lot more sense, as opposed to thinking about it as like 30 techniques. Like, what is 30 techniques? Well, by themselves, it seems daunting.
Yeah, definitely. Because like, yeah, when you think about that, you're just focusing on the number. It's like, damn, 35.
Yeah, exactly.
I got 6. I got a good strong 6.
I got 6, coach.
I got 6 coaches I can show you real quick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're gonna get the other 29 from, but I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna watch the other dude. I'm gonna copy that guy.
I know, right? But yeah, but once I sat down and like, typed it out and figured it out, I was at like 45, I think.
Damn.
And then when I started the actual test, I just like, you know what, just go for it. And I showed more than what I was supposed to. And my instructor is cynical that way, where he's not going to keep count. He's going to be like, all right, you got any more to show? I'm like, yeah, I'll show a couple more. Any more? Yeah, I can show a couple from here, blah, blah, blah. And then like, okay, what's my number? Oh, you was at 50. I was just enjoying the show. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Can't do that.
And I was like, I was kind of, to be totally honest, I was kind of like skeptical about the whole technique demonstration, like the sheer volume of it, only because it's like, man, it feels very kata-y. You know what I mean? Like karate kata type thing. But then as you are, approaching the test and you're actually, drilling these techniques with, various people, other people who are taking tests, suddenly, because you're trying to do these techniques to perfection, suddenly you gain a greater understanding of them as well. Because, I didn't know those 90, like all 96 of those techniques, because again, going back to the whole, developing a game, how many of those techniques do I actually use? But because you're drilling them over and over again, suddenly it's like, I see the light. Right. May the force be with me.
I know, right? But yeah, because with our test, well, I guess it's like, I want to say like a little hidden side of it is when you're testing, like when you go from white to blue, you're expected to know so many techniques, or right. Our principles and our snakes or shrimps, or some school call them. So we have to learn. We have to know those. Yeah, we call them snakes.
Interesting. So
we have to show those. When we go from blue to purple, we have to show them and also demonstrate them. And then brown to from purple to brown and brown to black, you have to be in very, very detailed about these techniques. Right, on your body position, how to properly use it, where your hands should be, where your knees should be. It's it gets a little bit more thorough, and that's where the challenging part comes in, because it's like, okay, yeah, I know this stuff, but now I have to be able to explain it to whoever's else in the class watching me take my test for them to understand it as well. So
it's really fascinating to hear how other schools do it. Like you're not really privy to the way that other people kind of do their day to day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I was talking to another jiu-jitsu practitioner. She said the same thing. She's like, "Oh yeah, I've never heard of a school actually testing for your next belt." I was like, "Huh," and I've really never heard schools of not doing that. So
yeah. It's why, like, I've always loved the hour Shark Tank, because, like, it's like, that rush of when you finish that 60 minutes and you're just so exhausted, and like, especially the last 10 minutes when everyone's just trying to smash you, and like it seems like every new minute, the amount of sustainable cardio that you have is like diminishing by like 2 or 3 seconds, until like the last 5 minutes, you're like, you can go good for like 15 seconds. Then it's like, okay, defense.
I know, right? It's like, 2 seconds left. All right. And I'm just going to just lay here and just survive.
You ain't going to get me. I'm turtling up.
Exactly. Oh yeah. We all been there. But yeah, man, you got any other questions for me, or if you anything else you want to add, shout out your school, definitely. And if you have anything that's up and coming, coming up that you're doing, the floor is all yours.
I just want to say, thank you very much. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. And it's also, it's very cool to follow your dreams and do these kinds of things, because a lot of people are unwilling to put themselves out there, and the fact that you're doing that says a lot about your character. I guess shout out to Submission Academy. Yeah, man. And if I can say one thing about my school, it has saved me from myself more times than I can count, so I'm very grateful to them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's it. I just want to say thank you very much. It was a fucking blast. Pardon my cursing the whole time I was on, but hey.
Oh no, it's okay. It's explicit. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank my guest Jordan again for coming on and sharing his experience and his tales with us. Hope you guys gain something from it. Please go and follow our Facebook and Instagram page to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live Jiu-Jitsu. Have a great day. And we're day.